Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your Jupiter in Scorpio or Jupiter in the 8th house. So this video is part of a much larger series that I'm working on where I go over every single placement in every single sign and house between the Sun and Saturn. So this is my Scorpio and 8th house video series. I've done everything prior to this, so I have all of anything prior to Scorpio and the 8th house already finished, so there's a playlist down below. So if you have anything between Aries and Libra, or the 1st and the 7th house placements, either the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn, that is going to be down in the playlist down there for you to check out. So feel free to check that out if you are interested in that. And without kind of going too deep into this, I mean, what I'm going to be talking about here is obviously Jupiter and Scorpio, but I'm going to talk this video out in a couple of different ways. First of all, I'm going to talk about specifically what Jupiter means in astrology. Secondly, I'm going to talk about Jupiter and Scorpio, and then finally Jupiter in the 8th house. So if you have Jupiter and Scorpio but not in the 8th house, I recommend you just go to that segment. If you don't know any of this stuff, check out what Jupiter is about first, obviously, and then also look at the Jupiter in the 8th house. And they do kind of coincide with one another, so I will kind of be referencing a little bit of both. So yeah, this is a really fun video. I love doing this. This is so much of a joy for me to be able to go and explain the passion that I have with astrology, and specifically Scorpio placements is probably one of my favorites, as I am a Scorpio myself. So this is my season, this is my time, this is my week, and I'm really excited about it. So yeah, so this is the Jupiter in Scorpio video. So I think I don't really have anything else to really say. Oh, if you are interested in anything with me, there is going to be some links down below you can check out with that. And then finally, if you don't know what any of this is, and you don't even know if you have Jupiter in Scorpio, check out, there's a link down below you can use to generate your chart, so you can kind of see if you have Jupiter in Scorpio or not. So make sure to check those things out too. So that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's go right into what Jupiter means in astrology. Okay, so Jupiter in astrology is a very benefic planet, very optimistic, meaningful planet. It is considered the higher benefic, so it is quite expansive, quite helpful. It kind of enlarges whatever it touches in a way that is really allowing us to get as much as we can out of whatever that placement is. And so Jupiter really is going to be a planet that you're going to want to look at, because it's going to show more specifically what the meaning is behind why you're doing things, where your faith is at, how you look at faith, how you look at meaning, how you look at your purpose. And Jupiter is going to kind of layer where you have a lot of good luck, and it's going to have a lot of importance if you do have Jupiter, especially if you're born during the day. Jupiter is going to be a lot more prominent in that regard and help you in a lot of ways. And so if that's the case, this Jupiter is going to be pretty prominent for you. If you do have, or if you're also ruled by Sagittarius or Pisces, or have those pretty prominent in your chart, this placement is going to have also a lot of relevance to you, because Jupiter is ruled by Sagittarius and Pisces. It is therefore not that comfortable in the signs opposite that it rules. It's considered to be exiled, or considered to be in detriment in those signs opposite of Sagittarius and Pisces, which are Gemini and Virgo. So I've already done those videos. You're welcome to check those out if you have those placements. And then Jupiter is considered to be exalted in the sign of Cancer, and then considered to be fallen in the sign opposite that, which is Capricorn. And so none of those are actually anything we're going to really be talking about here today, because Jupiter is in Scorpio. It's not any of those in all of those kind of that I've listed, but it is something that we are going to definitely talk about, the belief and the faith system, because Jupiter in Scorpio, all Scorpio placements have a little bit more to deal with than the average sort of placement, only because there is an evolutionary lesson around Scorpio placements that the other placements don't inherently have in the same intense way. So yeah, so that's pretty much it with Jupiter. Like I said, it's important to look at specifically what Jupiter is doing in your chart to get a better idea of your faith, your meaning, your purpose. Your purpose in the sense like what you believe your purpose to be, what you believe is purposeful, how you connect to mentors, religion, philosophy, law, all those sorts of things are Jupiterian in nature. So and optimism is very much Jupiter as well. So so that's pretty much it. Now let's go into specifically what it means to have your Jupiter in Scorpio. Okay, so Jupiter in Scorpio. So Jupiter in Scorpio has a very deep way of looking at the world. They are going to be the ones that have it that way because of the fact that they've went through what they went through. And typically when we have Scorpio placements, what will happen is there's going to be this kind of disempowerment, empowerment kind of back and forth that tends to happen. So with Jupiter in Scorpio, this is all things relative to one's belief systems, one's faith, one's mentors, all these sorts of like laws and things. So there can be this very powerful relationship with those things, with legal issues, or with, social justice, or with beliefs and fairness. And I think there's a lot of times with Jupiter and Scorpio, I see a lot of people that get thrust into a lot of very powerful belief systems, because that's the way Scorpio placements want to understand the world, is through intensity. And in Jupiter's case, it's going to be all about faith, all about religion, all about spirituality, all of those things that give us a sense of meaning and purpose in the world. Jupiter is about. And when it's in Scorpio, it's like, I want to believe all the depth that's out there. I want to believe all the darkness that's out there, but I also want to believe in all the light as well. So there's this kind of battle that happens as a Jupiter Scorpio person, where you will kind of fight with the beliefs that were given to you, or how people use those beliefs, because we have Jupiter in Mars's sign as well as Pluto's sign. So because of this, we're having to kind of fight for some sort of belief, or there's some sort of kind of like faith beyond, or faith tied to what we're fighting for, and there's some sort of like meaning behind that. So with Jupiter and Scorpio, it's a lot of like, okay, I believe in this thing, I want this thing, I have to fight for this thing, but there's a lot of upheaval, because it's almost like they want to fight for the right truth, or the right meaning, or the right purpose. And a lot of the time that's going to come because of the fact that they were probably mistreated from mentors and teachers and spiritual people and things of that nature. And so these are the ones that have a very interesting relationship with faith, especially like I had said earlier, if they have heavy prominent Pisces placements or prominent Sagittarius placements, there's going to be a lot of faith that they're going to automatically kind of imbue within their life. And that Jupiter placement is going to have a lot more power, which is funny, because that's the thing about Jupiter and Scorpio. It's about power. So your faith and your meaning and your purpose gives you power. What you believe in yourself really, really gives you a lot of power. And in this regard, that's why it's important to look at your Mars placement as well, to get an idea of how you're fighting for those beliefs in that regard. Now, Jupiter and Scorpio also has a very, very intense secrets. These are very occult people. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people that, I mean, obviously, you're watching a Jupiter Scorpio video, you're probably into occult stuff, right? But the Jupiter Scorpio and Scorpio energy in general is really deeply engrossed in those areas. Now with Jupiter Scorpio, as opposed to the other ones, this is where, like I said, there is going to be this kind of like really powerful world around faith and religion and spirituality and law. And there's a friend of mine that I know that actually has Jupiter with the North Node in Scorpio. And just to kind of keep it brief, just because I'm not really going into the North Node really in this series here, but the North Node tends to exaggerate and exacerbate the kind of qualities of the planet that it touches. And with Jupiter, it rules law, it rules religion, it rules spirituality. And for her, she's actually going, and she's in her Saturn return right now as well, which is another Jupiter ruled Saturn, by the way. And she is actually going to become a lawyer, which is very, very, very powerful. And there is something with Jupiter and Scorpio where there's a lot of power, and it comes from the darkness. So you could see people here that have very dark lives, but it allows them to have faith and meaning. So these are the people that get into areas that are taboo, and they understand that there's purpose in that, there's meaning in that, there's something to extract from that, and they can almost get a lot out of those darker things. So think about people that, do work for people in shady ways, or in ways that are Scorpionic, which are sex, right? Sex and intimacy and things like that. So Jupiter and Scorpio can gain a lot from being intimate, from being powerful with people, from being in people's darkness and trauma and issues. And but this one is more of, there's more of a kind of explorative way to this. It's not necessarily someone that would take advantage of that. That's more of, there's other alignments that would kind of cause that. But Jupiter and Scorpio typically wants you to explore the depth of that, explore all of your psyche and all of the other people's psyches and all the darkness. So you'll see people that work in very kind of shady and or dark areas, but they're able to really be the light in that regard. They're really able to kind of find optimism in that way. Now, there can be an excess of occult knowledge and secrets and things. So there is a lot of stuff that you Jupiter Scorpio people know that are very, very, very powerful things. And it's about how you use that power and what meaning you prescribe to whatever you're getting from somebody, right? Once again, like the Jupiter Mars of it all, like there's this kind of like, I believe in myself because I've gone deeper, I've gone through things, I've pushed through the darkness, I pushed through the issues, I pushed through the trauma, and I maybe had to work on the streets, or I had to, do these really shady things for a while to just get by. But there's meaning behind that, and the Jupiter Scorpio can really derive that meaning, and they can kind of go into those spaces and kind of be left unscathed. In a lot of ways, because they're meant to kind of go in and teach things and explore that, and they have this optimism and this positive approach to those things for the most time. Like I said, there can be an excess. So like if, for example, if we had Jupiter Scorpio in the 5th house, this would be more of a substance abuse kind of indicator, or someone who has some really interesting moons connected to that. There can be a lot of like overabundance of needing to connect to like really deep emotional things, and so there could be this really intense emotional range with that one. But my point being in all of that is that it's important to look at the other aspects that Jupiter's making, because if Jupiter is just by itself in Scorpio, and it's just kind of doing whatever it's doing, whether it's let's just say it's in the 1st house, there's a lot of different ways that it's going to kind of show up. That means that if Jupiter's angular, meaning it's in the 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th house, it's going to really bring out a lot of energy in this chart, and a lot of kind of focus, where there's going to be kind of a very prominent theme of faith, religion, spirituality, purpose, questions and answers, those sorts of things. And there is also a sense with this of working in teaching, like law enforcement, or teaching about very powerful things and influencing very powerful places through your faith. There is a sense of also, like, a lot of people with Jupiter Scorpio tend to just be occult teachers or want to be with teachers of the occult, and they'll kind of just be thrown into those spaces anyway, but it's about, and they'll see how people utilize those things. Because in this space with the occult, and just in general, not even in this space, but just like in life in general, people are unethical, and people are shady, and they do things that are not necessarily the right way to get there. And with Scorpio placements, you're going to understand that. But with Jupiter in particular, it's all related to belief and philosophy and religion and what people teach. And so there could be this sense of you have a mentor that's preaching this thing, and it's not really true, but it's their act of preaching that allows them to, make millions of dollars, but it's not actually true, or they're preaching this belief, but they're not actually following it on the deep, deep, deep inside, right? So there's kind of this sense with Scorpio of wanting to really get to the truth of whatever the beliefs are being preached at them. So that's why I think they get thrust into groups and environments that are really deeply knowledgeable, deeply philosophical, deeply occult, all these things that are very powerful. And like I said, there is a sense of intimacy with this, where Jupiter and Scorpio, they're meant to really experience life in a very intimate, dark, deep way, and I love it. I love the Jupiter Scorpios that are that I talk to. I have a lot of clients that have Jupiter Scorpio, and they have a sense of them where they understand they have to go through the darkness and the difficulty and the issues, and by doing that, they then become, more able to believe in themselves and believe in optimism and believe in something. Because with Scorpio placements, it's so hard because we tend to get beaten down, and with Jupiter Scorpio, it's a lot of darkness and dirtiness, and it really, Jupiter and Scorpio wants you to really know that, like, part of that darkness and depth and shit of life is necessary to have something to believe in, because it's really hard to go through life and just have rose-colored glasses on and just believe in everything and just kind of go and always be positive. And it's a thing that is very unrealistic, because there is a lot of darkness, there is a lot of depth, there is a lot of trauma. And the thing about Jupiter Scorpio, I think one of the phrases, and I don't know exactly how to word this in the right way. But one of the phrases that kind of comes to mind that I think is very much Jupiter Scorpio is this whole premise of fate versus free will, which is obviously something that astrologers and diviners and all of us talk about very, 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 very frequently. And the thing about it is that Jupiter Scorpio, there's something, and I don't want to go too deep into this because I don't want to, it's weird because I want to give it the depth that it would deserve in this discussion. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to keep it brief just because I think that'll just be better. But my point is in that with the fate versus free will conversation with Jupiter Scorpio, something I find that can be linked to this is the conversation around being born into struggle, being born into abuse, being born into these things. And I think with Jupiter Scorpio, we see online so many times that there's people that just blanket over things by using their beliefs and their faith and their perspective and just say, oh, well, everything happens for a reason. It's all love and light. And people that have gone through serious trauma are sitting there and they're like, are you telling me? So you're telling me that I chose to be, abused and, all these crazy things. I'm not going to go too deep into it for YouTube here, but my point is like, all these really intense things that do happen to people a lot of the time in the spiritual spaces. And this is why we have to do better as a community, because a lot of the time, a lot of people in these spaces look like me, right? And because of that, this video is going to be really interesting. It's going to be a pretty interesting video. I'm just really realizing this. But my point is, a lot of people in these spaces look like me, and they're not willing to all the time, most of the times actually, separate their privilege when they're talking to people that have serious issues and have gone through serious trauma. And there's this kind of love and light of it all and kind of spiritual bypassing, which I think is something, I guess my long-windedness of it is that I think Jupiter Scorpio has a lot of connections to the idea of holding people accountable for spiritual bypassing, and that whole premise. But like I said, I think there's so much in that whole topic about, people in this industry doing things that are not honoring the beliefs and where they came from and the culture and the history. And that's all culture, history, spirituality, spiritual practices, philosophy, religion. All those things are all not scorpionic, are all Jupiter in nature. So with Jupiter and Scorpio, it's about, really dismantling those, like decolonizing, all of the things that we've believed to be what the media portrays as either astrology or all these sacred practices, and frankly whitewashes them, right? And I know I'm saying this, and this is very ironic, me saying this, obviously, but my point is with Jupiter Scorpio, they have this sort of like holding those beliefs accountable and really digging deep into those things. And that's where they have so much power, and that's where there's so much advocacy, and that's where there's so much depth that they have, because of the fact that they have gone up against beliefs that are not, for lack of a better word, not true or are not applicable to them because of their trauma, or to most people because of most people's trauma, right? That's something that I think is just a whole Jupiter conversation, just a conversation in general that needs to be had. Obviously, this is not a video for that specific conversation because I want to keep it kind of centered on astrology, but it's really important to, when we come to talk about Jupiter, to really understand that the faith that we have, a lot of the time, and our practices and a lot of our, traditions and our cultures and things, they all come from very sacred practices that we may not be affiliated with, but we are utilizing for our own skill set or for our own perspective, and sometimes with the perspective of someone who has privilege, who has a world that is built around them and supporting them because of simply where I was born, my skin tone, and all those things. Having that around me, sometimes a lot of people don't pay homage to what is actually the important part of the conversation and where those things come from. A lot of the time you see so many people just jump on these things because and these things meaning like occult knowledge and things like that, without doing the depth of research that a Jupiter Scorpio will do. And like I said, I think there's a sense with this Jupiter Scorpio of really holding those beliefs accountable, and those mentors accountable, and those that are preaching things accountable. And there's almost this preaching of, darkness, and in a way that's not advocating for darkness, but and when I say darkness, I'm talking about the human shadow, the human psyche. That's really what I'm referring to. And there's a sense here with Jupiter Scorpio of really, like I said, purifying those beliefs of everybody, purifying why, like, we're not using this the right way. We're not using this in an empowered way. And I think the thing about Jupiter Scorpio, there's a lot of discourse around how they have gotten to the point where they are in their life, where they believe in what they believe in. And because of that, there's so much deeper things in regards to spirituality that need to be addressed. And I think the Jupiter Scorpio people are the ones that are like, let's look at the sacredness of it. Let's look at the history, at the richness of it, because that is where a lot of the gems and the gold comes from. And the thing is, both Jupiter and Scorpio are both related to things that are rich in nature. Scorpio is related to diamonds and things that are really, really deep into our own resources and our psyche and our subconscious and our deep, deep ancestry. And then Jupiter is all about richness in the sense of like good luck and optimism and positivity. And so there is a sense of a lot of richness that comes through the struggle, and that's something that just is something for Jupiter Scorpio specifically. And there is also a really strong mediumship quality. This is just true for all Scorpio placements, but Jupiter Scorpio has it a lot more. And they might have a very rich heritage too, especially if Jupiter Scorpio is connected to the moon, or if it's connected to that fourth house cusp there. So there is a very rich sort of family life, or a rich belief-centered world. So they might be surrounded by, spirituality at a very young age, if Jupiter is in Scorpio, or they might be surrounded by very difficult circumstances that needs them to keep the faith. And so I want to hear from you guys. I really do. I want to hear from the Jupiter Scorpios, because I think you guys have so much value. I know you have so much value because of the fact that Jupiter and Scorpio just has so much to give, because of the fact that it's done the work and it dug into it, and it's needed to use faith and find their own truth by getting rid of all of the crap and the toxicity that's within spirituality and spiritual spaces and religion and religiosity and things that they believe in and what they've been taught and what they've been indoctrinated in. Indoctrination is a huge Jupiter Scorpio thing, and that's where I think there's so much to be said about the indoctrination kind of process. And I think the Jupiter Scorpio is really all about breaking that apart. And so that's all I want to say on this. I don't want to go too much deeper into this, because I think it is, like I said, I want to give, it's hard because I conflict, and this is part of my own nature, is I get conflicted because I want to speak so deeply and so much to much more length on these topics, because I know they're important, and I know they're very, very rich in just like context for people that needs to be brought up. And I know a lot of people need to understand that and speak on that within this industry, within this community, right? But that's why I want to hear from you guys from Jupiter Scorpio. If you guys are interested in that video, or you have any thoughts on that, or what you think might be cool to kind of talk about that, if any of you are, obviously not of my skin color and have a lot more richness of ancestral experience and the Jupiter Scorpio experience that want to lend to that and would want to do something, I would love to have a conversation with you, and just hear from you as well, just to kind of hear what your thoughts are, because I want to make sure that if I do make that video, that I am doing it justice, and I want to make sure that I learn as much as I can. And it's always a learning process with astrology, and it's always a learning process in general. And that's the thing. Astrology is an ever evolving sort of system, and with Scorpio and Jupiter connected, it's always even more so evolving deeper and deeper and deeper into ways that are really, really powerful. And I think the Jupiter Scorpio individuals, these are the occultists, the ones that really know how to do things in a much deeper way than most other people, because they've done the research, they've done the depth of their own deep introspection work and their own deep analytical work, and the deconditioning work that is required for Jupiter Scorpio. So that's all I have to say on this with the Jupiter Scorpio. Like I said, I'm going to end it here. And if you guys are interested in anything with me and you want to, you want to connect with me, my stuff's down below as well. And also, of course, there's the playlist down below too. So if you have anything prior to Scorpio in the 8th house, any of those planets between the Sun and Saturn, there's the videos down there for you. And then if you have anything after Scorpio in the 8th house, those videos will be coming out in the subsequent seasons here. So make sure to check that out. But I appreciate you for listening to me with this. And with that, I will see you guys in the next part where we talk about specifically what it means to have your Jupiter in the 8th house. So we have Jupiter in the 8th house. So this placement is going to be a little bit different than Jupiter in Scorpio, simply because Jupiter can be in many, many, many different signs here. So if you do have your Jupiter in the 8th house, I would highly recommend that you look specifically at whatever that Jupiter sign's ruler is. So for example, if you have your Jupiter in Taurus, look to your Venus. If you have your Jupiter in Gemini or Virgo, look to your Mercury for a little bit more context of what else is going on. Because when it comes to Jupiter, it's all about faith and optimism and belief and meaning. And the ruler of that Jupiter is going to tell you more about how you prescribe the meaning to your life. But overall, Jupiter in the 8th house is going to have a pretty supportive energy to that. You're going to get a lot of support from other people. You're going to get a lot of people's secrets. You're going to kind of understand a lot of different things about people that the 8th house is just kind of about. Jupiter in the 8th is really this really expansive opportunity that comes from other people, investing in people's energy, working with other people, having a lot of, different business partnerships, things of that nature are going to really help a Jupiter 8th house individual. And you're going to have a lot of opportunity to really grow deeper into other people and deeper into intimate partnerships and different relationships. And there's a lot of power that Jupiter kind of instills in the 8th house. But it's all about kind of giving you optimism to go towards the darker parts of life, the deeper parts of life, really understanding how to deal with people in a much deeper, more intuitive way and a more faith-based way, and understanding that every single person that you interact with is going to have some sense of something that they can teach you and you can learn from them. And so that's something that I think the Jupiter 8th housers really need to understand, is that the deeper you go towards people, the better you will be off. And the more you explore with curiosity towards people, the better you will grow, and the more you will learn, and the more you will be able to find the meaning as to why you're here. Because Jupiter in the 8th, your meaning is going to come from going into the darkness with other people and walking through that and learning through that process is something that Jupiter really, really wants to do in the 8th house. It wants to learn through darkness, difficulty, struggle, intimacy, other people's money, other people's resources, and knowing what other people work with. And I think with Jupiter in the 8th, there's almost this desire to go towards other people and see that they are really where a lot of those answers are going to come from. And so with any 8th house planet, I caution you for a sense of lack of boundaries, because they almost want to go even deeper in other people's things as opposed to facing their own. So that's where we see the importance of the 2nd house opposite this, which is your own self-worth, your own self-validation, your own self, kind of like knowing your value, knowing your worth, knowing what you have, knowing your resources. Jupiter in the 8th is almost like you're going to get pulled into other people's things in a deeper way. And that's always going to teach you something. It's always going to be something that you're going to kind of maybe realize that there's so much more that you can learn through just going into other things with other people, learning from other people, exploring things from other people. There's a lot of value there too. So that's it with Jupiter in the 8th, but I do want to add on a lot of things about what Jupiter can do in different placement in the 8th, just kind of get a better idea of how Jupiter works in that specific sign. Very, very short. Obviously, most of these Jupiter videos I've already done. So if you have your Jupiter in anything, sun ruled, so Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Virgo, Taurus, Libra, and then Aries or Scorpio, all of those Jupiter signs are already done. So if you're here to check out those videos as well for a little more context, to help kind of put the puzzle together, that is you. Now, when it comes to Jupiter in specifically the 8th house related to Aries or related to Scorpio, this is going to be someone who is going to fight for a lot of opportunity, a lot of merging with someone else, because Jupiter in a Martian sign is going to want to really believe in themselves and push towards and through those boundaries. So this can be some sort of steamrolling aspect to this, of I really want this thing, I'm gonna go after this thing, I really believe I deserve this thing, I deserve to be with this person, I deserve this money, I deserve, there's a lot of like deserving and fighting for things. And similarly, Jupiter in Taurus and Venus ruled sign has the same sort of vibe to it, except it's not as like really what's the word, like it's not as abrasive when we have Jupiter in a Venus ruled sign. Now, Jupiter in the Mercurial ruled sign, so if we have Jupiter in, sorry, I'm checking some stuff out in my head really quick, but if we have Jupiter in the Mercurial sign, so either Gemini or Virgo, there's going to be this sort of quality here. I kind of want to step back a little bit, but I'll get to, well, yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the Venus ruled Jupiters first, because if you have Jupiter in Taurus, like I said, there is this kind of like overabundance of financial opportunities coming to you from other people, which is great. But Jupiter Libra, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because if you have Jupiter Libra in the 8th house, you are likely going to be a Pisces rising, meaning that you have Libra ruling that 8th, which is going to naturally mean that your chart ruler itself is going into the 8th. So there's a lot of more focus around here of shared resources, shared assets, contracts, negotiations with people, legal battles. There's a lot of you that is brought into the 8th house with this particular example here. So if you have your Jupiter and Libra in the 8th, just know that there is a strong energy that you are bringing to really learn more about what the person is that's in front of you and why you want to be in a relationship with them, or why you want to work with them, or what they have to teach you. So there is a lot of importance to bring up there with Jupiter being in Libra there. Now, moving on to Jupiter and Mercury ruled signs, so either Virgo or Gemini. These are obviously where Jupiter does not do that well, but the 8th house kind of likes to have Mercury here because it does assist with kind of like analyzing the depth of things, analyzing the kind of different details of why you're merging with someone, why you're not, why you're going into business with somebody, why you're going through all these dark things. The other thing I want to bring up that's just kind of like an overview for Jupiter in the 8th as well. Any 8th house planets are going to be really great for mediumship, really great for helping people through trauma and darkness and occult things. So Jupiter in general in the 8th is going to just naturally bring those things, similar to what it does in Scorpio. Obviously I didn't really do much in Jupiter and Scorpio because this is the whole Jupiter Scorpio video, so this is like all you if this is your particular placement. But yeah, if we have Jupiter in a Mercury ruled sign, this is going to be a lot of curiosity. So this is where if you were signing contracts, you were having paperwork, you were merging with someone, make sure you read the fine print. If you have Jupiter in the 8th house in either Virgo or Gemini, make sure that you are very, very detail oriented around why you are believing to be with that person, or believing going towards, like, this is where we see like sign a prenup, get all that figured out. Really get all the fine details figured out about merging with someone, connecting with someone. There's a lot of importance there. Now, if we have Jupiter in Cancer, so this is another one that if you have Jupiter in Cancer, this is actually a really good one here. This also is your chart ruler if you have Jupiter in Cancer in the 8th house, because it's going to place your chart ruler, or you are a Sagittarius rising, and then Jupiter's in Cancer in that 8th. So this is a really good placement considering your ruler is exalted. So you are bringing yourself into deeper places, darker places, more intense conversations, more intimate conversations, and you are learning how to navigate them. So there is a really big sense of faith. These are people that would be like the potential angel investors, or people that are really going deeply into helping someone in a way that is very faith-oriented, very positive. An exalted Jupiter here is just going to have a lot that it's going to want to give, and it's going to want to learn from people, and it's going to not really have fear in going in those ways. So this is a really, really good placement if you have Jupiter in Cancer in the 8th house, because specifically because it's not just exalted in Cancer, but it's your chart ruler as well. So you are going to be really diving in fearlessly, and really giving a lot of opportunity, a lot of good things. And the thing about the 8th house, I think a lot of it gets kind of spoken down on, when in actuality, the 8th house has a lot of philanthropic and kind of giving away of your resources to other people as well. So this is what I would see with Jupiter in the 8th house. It's like the more you give selflessly with Jupiter in the 8th house, and this is true for any Jupiter in the 8th house placement, but Jupiter in Cancer is even more so because you are Jupiter, you are the Sag rising in this example. The more you give, the more you get back, right? The more you help people through darkness and help people through things and help them financially or whatever, the more you get back. It's a really, really positive placement in that regard. And I really, really enjoy it in a lot of ways. So I like that one. Jupiter in the sun sign, so Jupiter in Leo. This is going to have a little bit more of a, like I said, a me thing. The sun in the 8th house does have these struggles of self-expression, self-identity, being able to see yourself, being able to see the meaning in yourself, why you're here, what you're here to do, what you want to talk about, what you want to show of you. And so there is something here where there's like a bearing of your soul that's needed to really believe in why you're here. There is also a really deep inner healing with the inner child here. Yeah, there's a deep like inner child healing with Jupiter and Leo in the 8th. So just definitely work on that, because there's going to be a lot of things you can learn from that, and you can teach others through that process too. So there's that. And then we have, let's see, after that we have the Jupiter ruled signs in the 8th house. And so this is going to have, this is where you see foreign investors. This is where you see a lot of foreign partners as well. This is good for Jupiter here. Jupiter really wants to be in its own sign. In the 8th house, it does have kind of it almost might deal with a lot of death and a lot of people's death and like different kind of taxes and issues that we can't avoid. So this could be really great for tax purposes. I would see this more with like a Jupiter and a Mercury ruled sign, like Jupiter and Virgo in the 8th would be really good with like tax management and help people through like, business plans and things like that as well. But Jupiter in its own sign, either Sagittarius or Pisces in the 8th, this is a really good one because it's going to really protect the investments and protect what you are giving to other people, what you are receiving from other people, like how deep you're going. There's a lot of value that the 8th house brings you through other people when it's Jupiter's in its own sign there. So it expands your range. This is someone who's really great at teaching about other cultures, about other religions, and in a way that is really deeply philosophical and helpful. There can be part of this too that there is something to do with surgery as well with the 8th house. There's like a deep occult knowledge that you have here. Jupiter in the 8th just kind of has that overall, but when Jupiter itself is in the 8th house as well as in a Jupiter ruled sign, it's going to have a lot of deep experiences that's going to have to live, and it's going to have to learn from in a way that is foreign to it, but is just something that they understand as a part of life. Like they're raised in a way that's like death's a part of life. You have to learn through it. You have to live through it. And it's inevitable, right? That's something that the 8th house is about. It's about death and transformation. And so something that the Jupiter in the 8th house can also do, not just being in Jupiter's own sign, but just Jupiter in general, the death or the loss of someone or something and their resources, their value can easily be transferred to you. That's where you see a lot of inheritances with Jupiter in the 8th house, a lot of inheritances, like inheriting a lot of money and knowing how to work with it, knowing how to work with that energy, knowing how to fulfill your goals with that. There's a lot of positivity there with Jupiter in that 8th. So love that one in a lot of ways. And then Jupiter in a Saturn ruled sign, so either Capricorn or Aquarius. This is like a really, Jupiter or Capricorn here is going to have some outdated beliefs. And so I think this could be having to deal with like getting a business you didn't want, kind of in a way, or getting having to deal with your family's debt in a way that you didn't really see coming and you don't know how to manage it, or having to deal with something about outdated beliefs and outdated debt, right? Things that you didn't know were there and you need to work with it. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of options there. I mean, Jupiter in Capricorn still does help, despite it being fallen. It does assist in a lot of ways about how you manage other people's money. So there can be definitely this is like a corporate advisor as well, or some sort of accountant energy, just because Jupiter's in an earth sign. So there is definitely some potentiality there. And then Jupiter in Aquarius has this kind of positive outlook as it relates to social issues, and there's a lot of social support hear a lot of social support. Jupiter, so like overall, if you have Jupiter in like an air sign in the 8th house, you're gonna get a lot of social support. Jupiter in a water sign in the 8th house, you're gonna get a lot of emotional support from your family and friends. And Jupiter in a fire sign, you yourself are gonna be able to just get a lot of bravery and courage, as well as just kind of be motivated by other people in a lot of ways. And then Jupiter and an earth sign is going to get a lot of financial stuff. So if you see Jupiter and an earth sign in the 8th, this is typically going to be the financial, support, like the physical financial, here's a house, here's a car, here's a thing that you need support. Not saying that Jupiter and other signs or other elements can't do that, but that's how it typically comes across with Jupiter in an earth sign, because that's how Jupiter wants to give you things. It wants you to believe in the value of your physical resources, the work that you do, your career, all those things have value and they have meaning. And Jupiter wants to provide you that through other people's energy, other people's support, right? And like I said, Jupiter in an air sign like Aquarius has a lot of social support in a lot of ways. Very, very interesting friend groups here for sure. Yeah, very interesting friend groups and like associations in that regard. Kind of being with a bunch of different groups, finding a bunch of different trends. Very psychological. I think this one's really interesting. If you have Jupiter and Aquarius in the 8th house, I'd love to hear your story, because this one is really unique and really interesting to like what the value is that you see in your friends, right? Same with Gemini and Libra, same thing. So yeah, so if you have your Jupiter in the 8th house, I'd love to hear it and hear what your story has been like, because this is such a faith-based sort of placement. It allows you to have a lot of things that you can learn about and you can teach others. So I'd love to hear about this if you guys had this placement. Please put down below if you have it. And yeah, and I'm really excited about this series. It's super fun. I appreciate everyone that's been able to tune in, and I hope this has been able to help you if you have your Jupiter in the 8th house or Jupiter in Scorpio. If you guys are interested in anything with me, all my stuff's down below with there. Obviously, this is YouTube, so if you like, comment, share, subscribe, that's going to help me out. It's what I do. I love what I'm doing. And it's something that gives me so much joy to be able to give you guys some knowledge in little bite-sized ways. And then also, if you guys have anything prior to Scorpio in the 8th house, there's a playlist down below where you can check out those videos. And then, of course, if you have anything after this, those videos will be coming out soon. So just thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing day. And thank you, and I talk to you guys soon. Bye.